So I'm Wilhelm Murg. This is Steve Jones, Billy Joe Winghead, multiple other things. He does T-shirts. He does his own Screamin Steven's beef jerky. Hosted folk music stuff at the, or not folk music,
Blackbird.
but
Yeah.
open the mic night at Blackbird. Plays musical saw, builds theremins, builds furniture, all around, man of many hats,
Done a few
extremely
things.
talented. And I've always been fascinated because I know you had a rough teen years,
Yeah.
but it's like uh, you obviously have the soul of an artist and an intellectual, but you were taking like shop class and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the way it kind of came out that way has really always fascinated me because it's like even though you didn't go to college or whatever, you still read up. I mean, you're one of the better read people I know.
I
And
read, yeah, and I think part of that is I read a lot. I mean, I love
yeah,
to read, um, and I did. I've never been one for organized school. I quit school in 10th grade,
right.
and then got my GED later. But I mean, I got kicked out actually because I was skipping so many classes, and that was when I was being a big pain in the ass to my parents and getting in trouble and all that. But yeah, I picked up the harmonica at 16. I started learning how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb and old on top of Old Smoky, and went from there. And then I picked up the guitar, and I have Neil Young and Bob Dylan to thank for me learning to play guitar because I
Yeah,
get Neil Young Harvest Songbook or Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, and I'd look at where the dots went. And back then you had to do that. You don't have to do that today. You just pull
yeah.
it up on your phone. It takes 5 seconds. It's been free, but back then you had to get
I'd actually drive
songbooks.
to the music store and
And those were some, yeah, those were some of my main. I mean, that Bob Dylan one's just dog-eared and falling apart now. But so I learned to play guitar, and then I kind of put the two together and went, well, I played guitar and the harmonica at the same time, and I wasn't really watching people do it. I was just thinking, okay, I learned this harmonica. Bob Dylan. If you're listening to Tangled Up in Blue or Don't Think Twice, he plays the harmonica. So I'd play
right.
along with the record, learn the chords, and then I'd try it, and I figured it out. And
Yeah.
that's how I really started in music. And I think that different people have different aptitudes for things. And I think one of the aptitudes I have is I seem to have a memory for music where I was, which note was where, and also just hearing things in songs that I remember. You know.
Well, you also have this kind of you were I know you kind of stumbled on the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that gave you a whole different direction to go in when you were a teenager, or you stumbled into punk rock, and that it took you somewhere.
Yeah, and that all kind of man. I have always in all my life, as long as I can remember, I've just always been one to kind of go where the doors were open, and not spend a lot of time on doors that are shut, but um,
And people keep forgetting we're about the same age, and no matter how
yeah,
punk or experimental we get, we were listening to Jethro Tull, and yes, like everybody else, we had to kind of. It's not like we were
Emerson, Lake and
we
Palmer,
were
and
born listening to the
yeah,
the Electric Prunes or whoever.
yeah. But we were around when Blue Cheer and Grand Funk Railroad and stuff were like new. They were the big discs.
Yeah, yeah.
Steppenwolf, I remember having the Steppenwolf album. Um, but Rocky Horror was definitely a move for me. I'd always grown up, listening to Leonard Skinner and that sort of thing, and I went in to Rocky Horror because I was high and I needed a place to chill out for a little bit. So I pulled in there, and there was all these weird people, and dressed up strange, and it was just something I immediately gravitated to. I struck a chord with me, and I started going every week, and I was prematurely bald and with long blonde hair, so
Yeah,
naturally I started doing riff raff, and that was where I started performing in front of people. Was I have Rocky Horror to thank for that,
yeah.
and that moved into theater, and I was playing music at the same time, in on another avenue, in a different area, and it. I was doing theater. I did Little Shop of Horrors in Oklahoma City just before I joined Billy Joe Winghead back in
Right.
yeah, 92, you know. I was the plant operator. I was like, big, feed me Simon, feed me on. So I was doing musical theater way back in, you know, way back then. And that started from Rocky Horror, went into musical theater, went into punk rock. All that kind of introduced me into punk rock. And, yeah, listening to B-52s and Dead Kennedys and Circle Jerks and all those guys back when they were brand new was really cool. You know, I listened to a bunch of bands like from Alternative Tentacles that, you know, compilation albums, Ralph Records compilation albums. Where I couldn't always tell you the name of the band I liked, but, you know, I loved, you know.
You buy the compilations to hear more of a variety of bands.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just trying to find it.
And so I did that, and then we started a band that turned into about 4 different bands with the same guys. We would practice for 6 months and get a set together, and we'd play, and then we would break up until we formed another band. John Manson actually was the guy that gave us we were the very first act to play the Blue Note in Oklahoma City when John owned it. And John had owned the Bowery before then.
John, who started Billy Joe Winghead.
Yes, and we opened for the Vandals. And we were called Die Laughing at the time. I actually have a skull and adjuster's hat tattoo from Die Laughing back from in the day. So I kind of met John in a roundabout way, but there was a point, early 90s, that I got a phone call from him. He said, I need a bass player for this project I'm putting together. And I really liked John and what he did, you know. I'd heard him with the Custom Card Commandos and loved him. And so I was like, yeah, I'm in, count me in. And so we started back then, and I was not a bass player, but I have always been a rhythm guitar player, never been a lead guy at all. And it's, I mean, the rest of that, as far as Winghead, we're going on 25 years now together.
You're kind of following the chords, right, as a bass player?
As a bass player, yeah, you learn
your style of playing.
You're setting the bass for the other guys to do their fills and their riffs and stuff, you know, and so yeah, the bass player and the drummer, the rhythm section, that's just the backbone of the music, you know. And so,
but you're not trying to be Paul McCartney, or
I'm not trying to be Paul McCartney. I'm not trying to be Les Claypool. I'll never be Les Claypool, but I know where I need
more
to be.
More of a John Kerry type.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time with the right note. And if you get off for any reason, you find your way back on and keep on.
We need to play some music here, because I think people tuned in wanting to see some musical saw.
Musical saw.
Yeah, so we're going to play a Billy Joe Winghead off of SoundCloud, and Steve's going to play...
SoundCloud.com. Yeah. We're going to do that one?
SoundCloud.com/Billy Joe Winghead.
Billy Joe Winghead. Yeah, there's about 12, 13 songs on
since
there.
we have the record up, or Quiet Village?
Yeah. This is the song we did. John originally did this on theremin. I'm just going to do a demo on the saw with it. So,
Awesome.
It's
Great, great. That was awesome.
It
But
is a Muscle and Westfall musical saw bought from the company that makes them. They've been making them since the 20s. Now I did saws just that you bought in the hardware store for
Yeah,
15 years, and then I got my first musical saw. It was the equivalent of playing a $50 mail order guitar for 10 years
Yeah.
and getting, okay at it, and then somebody hands you a Martin and you go, oh my God, I had no idea it could
Yeah.
sound this good. Musical saw was a major game changer as far as my abilities. Now I'll tell you, the guys, we've always been known on the East Coast as those crazy ass Okies that will drive 19 hours to play for 45 minutes and turn around and drive back home, because that's kind of what we've always done. And
no Blues Brothers gigs along the way.
those, if we could arrange it, yeah, but lots of times we couldn't.
Yeah.
But those poor guys in the band had to listen to me learn to play the saw for 19 hours one way or the other. When I, pick up something new and I'm interested in it, I have a tendency to fall head over heels and I'm just doing it all the time,
Right.
So yeah, they're not huge. I mean, they're all right about the saw, but
Well, where'd the saw come from? What inspired you to start playing one?
my wife's cousin, Dale's the other cousin. David Dyer, he's a symphony musician in Ohio, I think in Cincinnati. Came down for Sally's sister's wedding, and he came up to Tulsa from Oklahoma City for an extra day to play frisbee golf, because he's a frisbee golf fanatic, and we have more frisbee golf courses than almost any other city, is what he told me.
Never thought about it.
But we were out playing, and he mentioned he could play the saw with a bow. And I immediately latched on. I was like, I've got to learn how to do that, because I'm a shop guy. I was a glass man for over 35 years, And
So what year are we talking here when you saw him play the
15
saw?
years probably.
Okay.
Probably 15 years. And I said, you cannot fly out this afternoon until, you get a saw in my hand. Just show me the basics, And so we went to Home Depot and we got a hand saw, and we went to Golden Pond on Peoria and found a bow for like $10 and got a thing of rosin. He showed me how to do it. And it's all in the S curve. It's all in you got to have a small curve up here. You can see this. And then you bend it as you go. So you got to have two curves. One goes one way and the
Nice.
the more you bend it, the higher on the blade you go. It's a little work, but it's a lot of fun. Now, there's a lady in New York City, this very friendly, very nice lady named Natalia Peruz, and she's also known as the Saw Lady. And she had the pleasure of meeting Clara Rockmore. And Clara told her...
And for people who don't know who Clara Rockmore is, world famous early theremin player. She was theremin's
virtuoso. She was kind of the
There's a whole soap opera behind theremin, but she was the first virtuoso. And she was a violinist or something, and
I'm not sure about that.
There's something that happened where she couldn't play the violin anymore.
Well, she told Natalia that I always thought that Leon Theremin invented it as a burglar alarm. That's what somebody told me, and
I heard that one.
But she told me back in the day, back in the 20s, when he invented the theremin, there was a hell of a lot of saw players in the vaudeville shows. They couldn't afford fiddles. And somewhere back in the Great Smoky Mountains or the Adirondacks, some hillbilly figured out you could get a tone out of a saw, out of spring steel by doing that. So I mean, it
and a whiskey jug is a good rhythm machine.
I think it came from America, and it came from the eastern seaboard.
Seems pretty American.
But there was a lot of saw players in vaudeville back then, and Leon wanted to invent an electronic version of the saw, and actually did quite well at it,
Right.
So in that sense, the saw is an acoustic theremin.
Wow, I never heard that story.
Yeah, I didn't hear it until about 6 months ago, and I started talking to her.
I have the documentary on theremin on DVD, but I haven't watched it since I got it, 10 years ago.
That theremin in Electronic Odyssey, is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great piece. Sad though. I mean, it's sad. because Leon Theremin was kidnapped by the KGB and taken back to Russia and spent the rest of his life making transistors or something when he could have been doing great things.
So with you, so where'd the theremin come from? How did you? Because are you building them from kits, or are you building them from the ground up?
John, I think John had the first one built from a kit that he got from Paya Electronics in Edmond. We have since gotten them built and bought them built at from the Moog people in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh.
They make theremins, and they make the best ones in my book. And I should say, you know, lots of people use the theremin as a just kind of sound effectsy sort of thing in their music. John, I've always said, John plays lead theremin. He carries the melody, you know, with the theremin. And
a lot Clara Rockmore.
Yeah, a lot like that. And so we built the one that he had, and it got torn up. And I found the fat shaker, one of those weight belt things. It's got a wedge you stand on, and two very sturdy pipes going up, and a housing about the size of a record, but you know, 8 inches deep. And we pulled all the guts out of that, and we put in antennas. And I'm not a gearhead, you know. I'm not somebody else did most of that, but they took the old theremin, they put it.
But you can fit a machine in a fat shaker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm really good at obtaining really weird stuff, and that was just one I saw in a junk pile, and I was like, man,
I would imagine they don't come by every day.
Yeah. Before that, we were carrying it in an ammo case with weights in the bottom of it. It was a pain in the ass. It didn't break down. But the theremin's such a light instrument, and if you're playing floor level, and some drunk guy's like, it draws drunks like a light draws moths, you know. Oh my God, I gotta get close to it. And, you know, then knock it over, it's fucked up. So, or you get close enough to it, you're affecting the sound. You can't get the sound you want because somebody else is in the field.
I remember when you guys played Mayfest, and there were kids in the front row who were imitating John's movement with his hand as he was playing, you know, like they were playing a theremin, like they were playing air theremin.
It's almost, when you watch him play, it's almost like watching a conductor, you know, play his music, because it's the only electronic instrument in the world that's played without actually touching, theoretically. John usually sets his volume at a certain level, and so he's just mostly focusing on his hand. But the theremin, if you don't know, throws up an electric field between two antennas, and one is the volume and the other is the pitch. So if you go closer you get to the antenna, the vertical antenna, the higher the pitch goes. And it had to have taken him a while to perfect it. He's gotten very good at it.
So, so tonight's the show. Winghead's back together, stronger than ever.
Probably the strongest lineup we've had. Probably the strongest lineup we've ever had. And we're doing some new stuff. We're going to do a bunch of the golden oldies. You got to remember, we've been together for 25 years. We got 9 CDs out, none of which were hugely financially successful, but we don't really care about that.
I still think Big Junk Day is one of the greatest albums ever put out by an Oklahoma band, period. I mean,
thanks. I think, you know, I think I'm safe in quoting John as saying, a couple things he said. You know, he does not ever want to take money from somebody that feels like they have the power to tell him what he should be doing musically. He stayed true to doing stuff that he thought was interesting and cool, and for that reason only. We've also never made any money. The band members have never made any personal money from the band. Everything goes in the kitty to pay for the next recording, and all these recordings that we've done over the years are just benchmarks of where we were at that time. And we've evolved, and the new stuff is certainly different from the early stuff. You're going to hear more synthesizers. So there's a little bit difference in the music. It's maybe not quite as rockabilly. But it's big, and it's kind of psychedelic, and it's cool.
It's always been kind of big and psychedelic.
It's intelligent music. You know? John's doing, I don't know, those of you that have heard the album Fondle Vomit, John is doing something similar to that, where it's a spoken word piece to a backdrop of music, which is in kind of a
I didn't know that either.
strange, almost waltz type beat. So it's different. It's definitely different thing. But John, that's the other thing John told me. He was looking at me at practice one night, and he said, "I do not ever want to become a Billy Joe Winghead tribute band. Just playing those old songs over and over. It's just, if we're not evolving, if we're not doing something new and exploring, we're not growing." And I agree with that.
You know, last year I had a breakdown first at the Alice Cooper concert, and then finally a complete breakdown at the Joe Jackson concert, where I just pulled out my phone and started playing backgammon. In the last 20 minutes, I was so bored.
I would go see the B-52s. I didn't see them last time they were through. I'd like to see them just because I like them, and I'd like to see them in their older.
I used to love Joe Jackson, but man, it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that was fun.
So,
and before we go, I definitely wanted to talk about Sebastian Bach, the late, great Sebastian Bach, your dog, your companion. You have a tribute page up to him.
Yeah.
We were friends with him. We used to meet you guys out at the dog park. My dogs hung out with him.
And yeah, anybody that looks at Sebastian Bach memorial page, or Johann without the E, Johann Sebastian Bach memorial page, they're going to see video, and they're going to see pictures of him and things. Sebastian was a pound puppy. I got him 10 or 11 years ago. It was love at first sight, and we have been partners. Well, he was a family dog. He was my dog. I mean,
yeah, that was obvious.
You know, and it really hurt, continues to hurt, to live with his absence. You know, he was such a big presence in our house.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was a great dog, and he had medical problems that were beyond repair, and we had to do the hard decision, and it sucked.
Yeah, yeah.
But in some ways, I've mourned him more than I've mourned people I know that have died.
I have a feeling.
Of course, I like dogs more than people lots of times.
Well, you know, I'm an only child who was raised out in the middle of nowhere, so I kind of have this weird bonding with the wolves, you know, like some wild child.
I've always been a people person. I mean, I said that in a way. I don't want anybody to think I don't like people. I love people.
Yeah, but there's some you could live without.
There's some, and they always seem to be the ones with the most and the biggest mouths.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately. But I love meeting people. It's people are great.
So
people who know.
Hey, Reddy, you're going to get stabbed. Go. You're about to stab my dog.
That was a song people, those of you that are not old like me, probably have never heard of.
Yeah, you'd hear that 3 or 4 times during the Jerry Lewis telethon, usually.
Yeah, Barbara Streisand.
So you want to play us out with Roy Orbison?
Sure.
So
we're back at the Fur Shop tonight. It's our first. I mean, at the Mercury Lounge tonight. We go on at 11. We've got 2 other fine bands playing, starting at 9. $5 cover. Come out, and you'll hear a bunch of stuff from us. We've got more gigs coming up in Tulsa. I'm not going to talk about them yet because out of consideration for tonight's show. But I'll be promoting them plenty. And yeah, go check out Sebastian. And I also have an album on my page, Steven Jones, that's got 92 of my T-shirt prints. So anybody wanting a T-shirt from one of those?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about
they
that.
Can talk to me,
so you're not doing the Blackbird right now, are you? Or...
I am still going. I'm not hosting it anymore.
Okay.
Time constraints. With the band got back together.
Yeah.
Time constraints were just so much. I was having trouble doing it. You know.
Right. All right. So
it's been great talking to you guys.
Happy to have you here.
All 2 of you are. You know.
There'll be more of you. It's not always live. So shall we? That's it. Tonight, Mercury Lounge, Steve Jones. You know the drill. We will talk at you next time. Say goodbye, Steve.
Bye. Happy trails to you.